Hello, it's Jack Tutor here of Attention Magazine. Welcome to Crucial Listening, the podcast where I speak with musicians and sound artists about 3 albums that are important to them. My guest this time is Obay Alsharani, a musician who made one of my favourite records of last year, Sandbox. It's a record with a cover that's generated by Obay's video feedback art, where you feed the output of a video mixer back into itself. And the album itself, the music, speaks to a similar affection for residue, for the past being baked into the present. It reminds me of an old chair with pock marks on it, with little fractures that speak to a history that's baked into the object itself, a past narrative that can't help but announce itself in the present. These electronic textures that he uses, these melodies, they falter as if the tape is bending. There's this huge, thick presence of interference and static, which seems so mindfully sculpted throughout the album. I love it. Obay was actually based in Syria up until a point in the 2010s where he fled and ended up in Sweden, where he now resides after a year spent in refugee accommodation as he awaited his residency status confirmation. And Obay's personal story comes up and is intrinsic to a lot of the stories around these important picks. It was such a treat to speak to Obay. I really hope you enjoy this one. As always, head over to attentionmagazine.co.uk/crucial listening for all of the back episodes and the links associated with this one. Head over to ko-fi.com/crucial listening, where you can throw a small donation in the direction of the podcast to help cover the outgoings that keep everything ticking. Thank you so much for your support as always. And that's it. Hope you enjoy it. This is Obay Alsharani on Crucial Listening. Hello, Obay. Welcome to Crucial Listening.
Hey, Jacques. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Thanks for coming on. So you're here to talk about 3 important albums. Before we get to those picks of yours, I want to return to your album Sandbox, which came out on Hivemind this time last year, which seems to have gone very quickly. I'm still playing this one all the time. It's so good. I'm intrigued as to whether or not your relationship with this record has changed. I mean, do you still listen to it? Do you think about it differently? What does that look like?
Wow, such a good question, actually. There is a relationship between, the person that, writes the music, and especially when there's an emphasis on sound design, because you will start listening to it again and you will see those mistakes, and it's inevitable in the end. But I think after finishing it, I couldn't listen to it anymore, because between writing it and mixing it, I listened to it hundreds of times.
Right,
so I couldn't. I couldn't. But it was, the purpose of it was actually making it for myself. So I kept listening to it, occasionally. But after a while, I really fell in love with it again, because even with those things that I would say that I would change, but I wouldn't now, because it really represents the idea of embracing mistakes rather than going 100% into perfectionism. So it was more like a learning experience. I love it. I feel proud of it.
Awesome. How long did it take actually to put together, start to finish?
It took a long time, but I to be honest, I don't remember exactly how I was, how it was written like vividly. I write music just because I feel something. It might be feeling sad or feeling happy, or but I think it was just because now I'm now writing the new album, so I can see there is a bit of contrast because Sandbox I think has been written like really fast. The tracks. I don't think I've written a lot of music at that time. Maybe like 13 tracks and I just picked 10. Now I like have 60, 70 ideas and I have picked only 3, honestly. So yeah, but but it was a really emotional time for me, and I was just like opening the laptop and launching Ableton and just playing music and whatever comes, and if it felt right, yeah, I would take it.
One of my favorite things about the record is the use of interference and static. I mean, it's occasionally, when I've heard it in other contexts, in other records by other artists, so often it's tucked at the back. It feels in your record so far forward, and that really allows an appraisal of how it feels so sculpted. It feels so deliberate. I'm intrigued as to how you generate the interference that appears on your record, given it plays such a prominent role. Where is that coming from, and do you see it as a big part of the sound that you're putting together?
Absolutely, it's a huge part of it because I figured out a few things, while working in Ableton and learning and producing music. Because before Sandbox, I was only making beat music, and I would use the Oriental samples, for music from the Middle East. But I really wanted to these Oriental music. I wanted to have it on either vinyl or tape, and because I processed a lot of it, a lot of music on these mediums, I gained some knowledge and insight about how would you treat sound and treat audio. And I would be online, I would be on the internet and downloading, people ripping vinyls and tapes and putting it online. So I remember it. I was still in the camp, at the beginning here in Sweden, and I was way, way up north. And I did something. It was a record of Nai music, if you know it. It's a Nai. It's a flute instrument, but it's in the Middle East. And the player did something that he was playing, and there was just like 1 second where he stayed like droning on one note, and because it was on vinyl, it sounded so much beautiful. So I just clipped that audio, put it in sampler, and turn it into like a sample-based instrument where you can play it. And the thing went way so much out of its context. It was something else, completely not Nai music. It was like a pad, beautiful sound. And I realized that, and I told myself, this sounds really good, But then I started, like, had a mental note. Whenever you find these sounds, keep it. Just clip it, put it in a file, and keep them, because it can be, like tiresome if you. Sometimes you just want to drag and drop stuff.
Yes.
So I started collecting these sounds and playing them, but I never thought I would make a record out of it. It was just like for me, actually. But because these sounds come directly already on tape and vinyl, So these, little things, these little mistakes, imperfections, they will come naturally, but it would be like a nightmare for a sound engineer. So
Yeah.
since I have like some insight on treating the audio and turning it into an instrument and playing it grew with time, because some people would use, people are use different approaches to it. Some people would record directly on tape. Some people would use, plugins that emulate tape and vinyl medium. But I found out that taking really interesting sound that I know that they work uh, generate a lot of beautiful results.
Also, I wanted to ask about the synthesizers you're using, because the tones are absolutely gorgeous. I was just listening to
Thank you.
Speak Your Truth earlier today,
Yeah.
and I mean the fact that that tone is so wonderful means that melody can be so utterly simple and throttled back. Just lets the synthesizer sing out. I mean, where do your synths originate from? Are they analog? Are they soft synths? What are you using?
Actually, if I need to use a synthesizer, it would be Ableton's native synthesizer wavetable. That's the
Nice.
only thing that I own. Yeah, honestly. But I'm thinking, in the future, I need to buy some gear. But I was more interested in buying video gear, actually, to analog video gear. But since I can treat audio to make it sound like a synthesizer, it's more like an audio treated to sound like a synth, actually.
Right. Yeah.
People,
Yeah.
I know people wouldn't realize this at the beginning, but when I tell them and they start imagining it, and I would then absolutely, I have to process the sound a lot, to get these timbres, these tones, to have. I mean, the initial result is already beautiful, but it needs some processing with effects and equalizing. But it's actually treated audio and really snippets of audio made into instruments that I can play, on my keyboard, on my yeah.
And your video feedback art as well. I wonder if you could tell me a bit about that. I mean, obviously there were a number of tracks that came out with videos when Sandbox came out, and obviously the artwork for the record itself came with lots of stills from this work.
Exactly.
I don't know much about this, but watching the videos, I kind of get a glimpse into the sort of process it involves. I mean, what is video feedback art, and how did you get into it?
Yeah, that's a really interesting thing that it happened honestly by coincidence. That when I was still wanting to make beats and with Oriental samples, I had an idea that I need to make visual side of it. And as a person, I consider myself actually a visual person. And so I had an idea of collecting videos from Arabic channels, documentaries from the Middle East, and just compiling them together. It's an idea made a lot, I think. And I thought just to give it, like a feeling, I would record it on VHS, and I would use a video mixer to just like make the transition more like retro, has a retro feeling to it. So I went online on eBay, and I searched for a video mixer. That these things, they stopped making them, I think, in the early 2000s.
Right,
Now they make still video mixers, but it's not in that way. They are just only to switch between A and B. But before that, they were like, I have one video mixer now that is made in West Germany. These things are so beautiful. So when I was ordering one, I remember reading it while waiting for it to be delivered. I remember it was from France, and I read online that you can generate feedback with it, because feedback is it has a lot of applications. But like, to just make it simple, it's when you have an output of the mixer and you feed it again into the input. If there's a unit called time-based corrector there inside this mixer, it like the mixer goes wild, and it can and start generating all these beautiful imagery, And I read about it. I wasn't sure I can, make it. I was aware of feedback art, but I never, didn't think I can do it. So I did the visual, the first idea about, those clips, those from the Middle East, and it was okay. I felt, it was like, a bit, generative, or generic. Sorry,
Yeah, right.
but then I thought, how about I try and make feedback? And the first time I saw it on my TV, on my CRT, like, I was sold. I was like, this is it. This is me. This is absolutely gorgeous. I've like seeing it, in first hand, especially on the TV. It's so beautiful. It's so organic, and then I couldn't stop buying video mixers. I own, like, honestly, I counted them. They are around 14, but I have also
Wow.
other I have also other video gear, and I started like reading a lot about them, and it's just a rabbit hole, man. Really. Yeah.
Are they? I mean, because they've stopped making them. Are they expensive or cheap now?
Yeah, I mean, no, they are becoming expensive because a lot of people have realized their potential. Not only, I mean, they are mostly used for feedback, but there are really creative people who would even they would edit the circuit, and there's like an art form called circuit bending, where
Yes.
people
Yeah.
would edit the a bit, like they mess up with the electric board there to generate even more visuals. It depends already on what the video mixer, some components in it, but yeah, they went up in prices. So but
Oh.
I mean, I can't, whenever I see one that I really need, I can't, so I have like a priority because, Jack, I mean, these things aren't made anymore. So it's like,
Yeah.
it's history. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. No, I saw. In fact, I saw on Facebook you posted someone doing
Mm.
circuit bent FIFA 2003. Which
This is actually me. Yeah.
oh, was it
I did
you?
this.
Oh wow, that's
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah. But actually, it's this one was a PlayStation one that a really talented guy who made it, and he made like only one. And when I saw it, I thought, I can't. I need it. I really need it. And it was the fastest purchase I ever made. But yeah, it was, yeah, I really love it.
You mentioned earlier, in fact, you've got a new album in the works. You're
Yeah.
probably right in the thick of it right now. I don't know how much you can say about it. I mean, what can people expect?
I feel really proud of it, but it's still in the making. So I thought, I mean, a lot of ideas started coming because after I felt there was a lot of good feedback that Sandbox has got. I never anticipated that, so I was a
Hmm.
bit scared.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and these ideas, starting coming to you when you say, what is the logical next step after Sandbox?
Hmm.
So I wrote a lot of music. Some of it was good, but I wasn't feeling any of it until I told myself, just at the end of last year, that I need to make something that I need first. You know, I don't care if people like it or not, and it takes courage. I wouldn't, you know, had these ideas when I started, you know, writing Sandbox, because no one anticipated anything. But
Right, yeah, exactly.
but now the sounds are, you know, coming out. I'm having, you know, an idea of what it sounds like. Yeah, it's definitely there. I would say there are similarities in the aspect of these artifacts, you know, and the reliance on tape and vinyl mediums. But I would say, as a feeling, it's more like it has a bit melancholic and I would say existential feeling to it. But there are a lot of new things that I haven't done on Sandbox. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. I
Yeah.
can't wait. Obey, let's go to your 3 important albums. I mean, one question I like to ask before we get into your picks is how you thought about the word important when coming up with your list. I mean, was there a way that you interpreted important in order to pick the 3 records that you did?
So the word important is actually important because I would say that you know, a lot. I mean, I love a lot of music and I listen to a lot of music from all genres, you know. And but I thought that when, you know, I need to pick the music that really shaped what I do, but also um, gave me the freedom to do what I, at least I have done on Sandbox, because you know, it's really powerful when you have sometimes ideas in your head, and sometimes you find out a musician or a band that they did the same thing, and it gives you freedom. It gives you, you know, that
Totally.
it's okay to think that way. You know, it's really comfort. You know, so these things were very important for me. Yeah.
Well, let's go for your first one. Which one do you want to talk about first?
I would start with Boards of Canada. Yeah,
Cool.
music as right. Yeah, absolutely.
Works for me. So, yeah, give me a little introduction as to why this one is important to you.
It's extremely important. So like when I was a teenager, I used to listen to a lot of heavy metal music, and I really loved it at that time. But by the end, I grew a bit out of it. I still listen to it, you know, occasionally, but I needed something else, you know. And I had like a prog phase. I had a, you know, grunge phase, and then I discovered Radiohead, and I thought of them at the beginning only as an electronic. Sorry, as a rock band, but then I discovered, you know, the electronic side of it, and I would start listening to some electronic music. I then discovered Warp Records, you know, and it was a time where I'm starting to listen to electronic music seriously, you know, but I could not at that time. I remember I couldn't understand Aphex Twin or Autocur. It was still very new to me, but
Yes.
I took notice of Boards of Canada, that they sound very interesting, but I'm not sure what is that exactly. And I did not listen to them a lot, but there was just one occasion where something happened, and I sat and I listened to that album in like from start to finish, and I was blown away. I told I got it. I understand that completely, and it was a revelation for me, that album.
And you said that these records enabled you to feel like you could do certain stuff within your music, or
Yeah.
they shaped what you do. I mean, what does that look like with Music Has the Right to Children?
Um, so, you know, sometimes, you know, you feel like as an artist, even if you are like painting or whatever art form you are doing, you have to pick a subject. You know, you have to pick something. You have to base it around something. But it's okay. I mean, that's the nature of things. But I was really interested about when you aren't exactly sure of what is the thing is all about, and that thing I got it directly from Music Has the Right, because the music is very mysterious. We aren't exactly sure what it's about, but you have strong feelings about it. You have strong imagery that is coming out of, that music. It stimulates imagery. And like I felt there were times when I would, especially like in Aquarius, that track, I would feel like I am an alien inside a womb in a machine, and I was so cool about it. It's okay, I love it there. So these things, I don't know how you can, explain it, but also, especially when you use the word mysterious and arcane, and I mean, the first ideas comes to mind, music, especially from where I would started listening to music, like heavy metal, that I need, to produce things that are more dark, but especially the use of beats that are more like, I'm not sure if it's the right word to say, but I would say hip hop beats,
Yeah,
or,
totally.
driven by that. And especially like there are, snippets that are, there is the use of turntables, for example, but in a way that is so creative and so open. And I felt like there's a beautiful freedom in that, and even like I would say, when I was, a child, I would, since we played all these, video games, and whenever you put like the cartridge, sometimes it can, if you put it in a wrong way, it can produce on the TV some glitches, beautiful
Yeah.
glitches.
Yeah.
If you remember these things, like ones and zeros, and but I thought that even though as a child I saw these things very beautiful, and I thought they are very beautiful, I never thought I could capture these things or make art of it.
Mm.
Music of Boards of Canada enabled that for me. They said you can do whatever you want, and your feelings are justified, and that was very important for me.
Yeah, I totally see what you're saying about this sense of mystery with Boards of Canada. I think,
Mm,
especially with this record, you get the impression that it's trying to communicate something through
yeah.
a bunch of patterns, right? So you get the
Mm,
kind of references to number stations or numbers generally. You get the colors, you get the children, you get these thematic things that keep coming round, and you're like, why do we keep returning to these specific themes? Like, there must be something that I should be ingesting, yet it's
mm.
never put in a plain sentence for you, which I guess is why there's incentive to come back round to it, right?
Exactly, and especially like the use of spoken words. It
Mm.
was very important for me that it's not only music. You can do whatever, and it will still feel in a way musical. It was important to listen to these experiments and the use of it. Not too much, but just like the right amount at the right place. It would sound really beautiful.
With Music Has the Right to Children, do you have a... This is a cruel question. Do you have a favourite
Mm.
track?
Aquarius, absolutely. But
Really?
I love
Wow. No
also,
pause. Wow.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I mean, I when I listen to it, like, I'm not sure, but I would guess they put some a type of bandpass filter on the pads, so there was like a sense of you are underwater.
Yes.
I From just the first seconds you realize that, but I love Rule the World also. I really love it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the one for me that always stood out, I think it still probably is my favourite, is Telephasic Workshop.
Yeah, I
Um,
love that track as well. Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, they never really got as sparse as that again. Like, you get it with like 6010 as well, where the
Mm,
melody is played on a synthesizer that keeps dropping out, right? And it's
mm,
so
mm,
intermittent or so faint.
mm.
Things get more layered after that point. I mean, in fact, are there other records by Boards of Canada that you connect with as well?
All of them. I really love all of them. I love, like what was it's called Taoism, maybe, or Taoism. I really love
Oh,
that.
tourism.
High
Yes, yes.
scores.
Yes.
Yeah, high scores. I love it so much. But even like their latest, which almost like 10 years now, Tomorrow's Harvest.
Yeah.
I connect with all of them. But music has right. It's something else, and I remember the time exactly when I listened to them. It was a very special moment.
And so you discovered it as a teenager, you say, similar to how I asked about your relationship with your record. I mean, how has your relationship with this album changed, if it has, over the course of you being in its company?
I think I ruined it for me because I've listened to it so much, and I listened to a lot of Boards of Canada music.
Yeah.
But today, actually, I really sat down and I listened to it from start to finish, and really it brought back a lot of memories, man. A lot of things that you would realize, especially like those subtle changes, the patience that you have to listen to music like that, because like now, even if it's any other music, I've ruined, I'm trying to get back, to listen to music again in a healthy way. But because, we have so much control you can skip the track, you can,
Yes.
play, if you don't like it from the first 3 seconds. That's not healthy way to listen to music.
For
But
sure.
I really miss these times when I would honestly sit and listen to an album, from start to finish. It really healthy way, yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to bring that back in for myself as well, because you never regret it, do you? But I think it takes a while to muster that inclination when all applications and software are encouraging you to flit about.
Yeah, when you don't like, you need to feel like we now have an attention span. I read like 8 seconds, and
Right.
yeah, it's especially like I mean, with Boards of Canada, but with a lot of other artists as well. The music that you really like, it needs to be listened carefully, and it's because especially when a music, that is out of the box, we sometimes go to listen. Now we go to listen to music, and we are waiting, for it to explain itself in a very fast way. Like, please tell me what it is, what you have done, but. No, that I'm really encouraging myself to listen to things, even if I don't like feel, even if I don't like the music, it's still the best way to listen to it.
Obay, let's go to your second important record. Which one do you want to go for?
I would take C418 soundtrack from Minecraft.
Nice. Yeah, so again, give me an introduction to why this one's important to you.
Yeah, this one is also very important. I remember I was in Syria, and in Damascus, I've met a friend. And I'm not like a video gamer really, and I played like a bit League of Legends and FIFA, but that's it. But he told me that there's a popular game called Minecraft. He showed me the game. I thought it looked really beautiful. I'm always down with 8-bit art, and I really love it. But I thought it was a bit annoying because I saw it being played with other people, and people like shouting and cursing each other, and they are all kids. I thought, what is that? But he told me it's a really beautiful game. Try and play it. So I mean, you would be surprised, but until today, I never played it with anyone else. Completely alone, like completely on survival mode. I never played it, yeah, and I still like it that way. But I remember, starting to play the game, getting really, liking it, because as you know, I like things where there is no, clear objective of what you want to do, and then suddenly the music comes, and it was a time for me where, even though I liked ambient music, I didn't want to confess to myself that I liked it. I don't know why, to be honest. It's maybe, I had an idea that music that is should be always, complicated or complex, or has a lot of layers, or be angry or whatever. I don't know, but I really caught attention of the music, being played randomly, and in times where I've read that there is no algorithm to it. It just comes randomly,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it always comes in the right moment, and that's very magical. But it grew with time. I would. The cool thing about it is that when I started playing it, I was in Syria, and then, like years after, in Sweden, and like still in the camp, waiting for my application, for my asylum application to be, approved, and like way in the north of Sweden, and I was still like on the same thing that I built in Syria. So it was, I didn't realize how the thing grew on me until that moment,
Right, yeah.
and I told that, I said, that music is so beautiful. I don't care if it sounds like I really love it now, but I thought at the beginning it's so easy, or it's simple, or these ideas.
Yeah.
But now I love it so much. It's, like very warm, and there is a strong sense of melody in it. There's minimalism, like a beautiful use of reverb, by C418. His name is Daniel. Really love that record.
Yeah, I mean, you sent over 2 parts that he'd done. I mean, I was
Mm,
looking up a bit of background earlier, so I understand there was like this initial pack of music that was released onto the game by
yeah,
C418, and then this beta volume that came in. I mean, it seems like the music has sort of expanded in installments, right? So, I mean, do you see like the alpha and the beta versions as kind of separate entities? Like, from your perspective, do they all flow into one, or are there distinct elements of like volume alpha and volume beta that you think makes them their own works?
well, I wasn't, aware of the game from its release, but I've read that there were only 4 or 5 tracks initially written from Volume Alpha, for
Right.
Minecraft, and that was it. But then the thing expanded for Volume Alpha, and since the game grew, and there are, other worlds that you can reach within Minecraft, so it needed different music. So, again, became Volume Beta. But I realized that um, Volume Alpha is more iconic to the game, but I like also Beta because it's a bit more melancholic, and it has more like, would say, more drony feeling to it than Alpha. I think
Hmm.
they both complete each other. They are, really necessary for the game.
I'm intrigued as well because I don't know how many like hours you clocked up playing it, but I guess
A lot. I
yeah.
swear, a lot.
So do you end up hearing these pieces of music like a lot of times?
Yeah, definitely. I think they happen like every, I would say every 5 minutes.
Wow.
I'm not exactly sure, yeah, but if you like are sitting like 2 or 3 hours, a day, you would listen to a lot of it. But then, the important thing that I still, until even, until being in Sweden, I only listened to it through the game, while playing it.
Right,
But
yeah.
then I found out that I liked it so much that a lot of the tracks started, appearing in my playlist. I'm adding them, on Spotify, that I really need to listen to that music. The context of it is very important within the game, but once you are used to it, it again, like Boards of Canada, it generates a lot of imagery. And
Yes.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was one thing I was going to ask, is that taking it outside the context of the game must have been a
Mm.
totally different listening experience. So did that revitalize or change your relationship with the soundtrack to suddenly be listening to it as its own entity?
Yeah. It's an important question. I still cannot, listen to it out of its context, but I would still listen to it. Not only because, it's a game in Minecraft, but actually because, um, I mean, I don't want to, like say emotional stuff, but it was, for a time, it was really a safe and happy place, that game.
Mm-hmm.
For me. And I remember, like the premises where I was playing it. And I would again get that feeling of, feeling safe, feeling happy, feeling, I mean, not like happy schmappy stuff, but just like really positive vibes.
Yeah.
And whenever I would listen to it, I mean, the game now, I would remember it less. More now, I would appreciate C418 music and his work. He, like, like the use of piano, strings, and harp, and the synths, and all of these stuff, and sometimes even percussive elements. I really respect his work, and like I'm focusing now more on the artist rather than the game. And I actually, one thing that I would add, just recently, while I was applying for work, since if Daniel is actually from Germany, but if Minecraft is a Swedish game. So I was applying for jobs, and I found out that Minecraft was hiring a sound designer. So
Oh,
I
wow.
directly applied. Yeah, I directly applied to them, and they actually sent me, a letter. Like we took another person with more experience, but really thank you for applying. And it didn't felt like something they like. An automatic reply. I
Right.
felt like
Yeah.
someone actually wrote that, and it still felt really heartwarming to apply.
Wow. Wouldn't that be amazing?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Their headquarters actually in Stockholm.
Oh, right, where you are. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah,
Oh, well, hopefully one day.
hopefully. Yeah.
So do you still play the game?
Way less now because I'm trying to focus on making music, but I visit it sometimes.
Hmm.
But way less. I really listen to the soundtrack more now. But I really love the idea of creating, and it has a lot of creative. And I loved, when I'm more interested in the art of the game, and this not only Minecraft, but just like especially retro games, rather
Hmm.
than playing the game itself. I really love the aspect of the technology that was they used back then.
I mean, in fact, in that sense, are there any other games that you've discovered since Minecraft that give you the same appreciation for, say, the design behind it?
I There was one game with also a beautiful soundtrack. Actually, you should check it. It's called Elemental.
Okay.
It's a really beautiful game, and the soundtrack is really well done. It's by an artist called Mindtree. You should check it out. It's really beautiful. It's really, really beautiful.
Ace. All right, I'll get on it.
Yeah. And all these, I really appreciate these indie games, more than big developers. I mean, I love all of it, but there's just this extra beautiful thing, like this little magic about these games, indie games. To people who like, an office of 3, 4 developers, writing a whole game. It's really beautiful. But I really want to go through, like especially retro games. But I want to get back to gaming a bit, definitely.
Obay, let's go to your final important record. So, what have we got?
It's Cellar, Discourse of the Wizard.
And could you give me a little introduction as to why this one's important to you?
Yeah, this one is. I really had a difficult time choosing which album because Cellar releases a lot of music, like a
Yeah.
lot of releases, if you have noticed. But this was actually the album that when I listened to it, I really have a strong relationship and place in my heart for Cellar music, and nothing like it. I think the only other artist would be Jan Teresen, the French pianist, if you know him. That's only these two artists because it's very emotional. But I picked this album in particular because it has one of the most beautiful tracks I've ever listened to, and it reminds me a bit of Syria. It's very sad. It's very tragic, and I always after like now 11 years of revolution, I still wonder how can you write music about Syria. I don't know how, but especially there's that track called "The Carved God Is Gone," waking above the pileous cloud, and there is like it's just a beautiful string that you are immersed in, and just like out of nowhere comes the sound of a demonstration. I
Yeah.
think I'm not sure what is the language. I'm maybe like Spanish or Portuguese. I'm not sure what is it, but it really reminded me of Syria. Like that tragic thing that happened. There's no way to put it, but that music helps me connect with it. Absolutely. But a lot of like I love everything that this guy does. And it was still in the time where Cellar was actually a duo project between
Yes.
Will Long and his wife, and she passed away. But this was one of the albums that they made together, so I had to pick this one.
Yeah, that track with the demonstration in it is really quite alarming. I think I've heard a few Cellar records, but none of them have had a presence like that on there, and it's kind of almost the last thing you expect to hear within the context of a record like this. Yeah, it's like something that could be considered in terms of being very abstracted is suddenly brought to something based in a place and politicized as well, which I guess ambient often is considered not, whether that's right or not. But yeah, I was listening to it in bed, and it kind of shook me. Suddenly it didn't feel like the right place to be listening to that record,
Yeah. And I mean, I always thought that just like honesty demands abstraction, sometimes. But just like the right use of the thing, I mean, you don't know how to have a strategy to use that, sample inside that type of track, but it fits.
Yes.
You don't know how, but it fits.
Yeah.
But all of his music, it really have a strong emotion, to it. The only thing that I can, think about in that way would be like the Sufi music, the dervish music, if you know it, like from Syria and the Middle East, and would be the Christian chanting of the Byzantine era, also in the Middle East. It really holds, I have a connection with it. That music gives me goosebumps, but even Cellar does it way better for me.
Wow.
It's my happy place, my safe place that I always find myself I need to go back to. I can't I can't speak about how I love that music for hours, but it's just really special for me.
Do you remember how you discovered the music of Cellar?
Yeah. I was again in the camp in north of Sweden. I listened to it, but I remember I listened to a track that it had a more like a noise element to it. So I wasn't really didn't really caught my attention. I got into one of the very few drone artists that I really like, Lost Mode. I remember at that time, and I thought, it's really beautiful, but I would love if there are more strings. And I don't know why I went back to Cellar, but I wasn't even aware that they release a lot of music, and just went to another track, and there is, I'm not sure which track that I have heard, but there was just that moment where I felt something that is so holy and godly and otherworldly. I know that ambient and drone music has that element, throughout that genre. It's but not in that way. Like you feel like you are honestly over a cloud and looking over, like down on the city, and you are just comfortable there. There's nothing like it. And that was the time, and it was. I remember also, like taking notes to myself that I've never heard something like that, and you should consider making that type of music. You should consider that place, because it's really where I want to be sometime.
When you say that type of music, you mean something that evokes like that sensation, that feeling?
Exactly, and like a true emotional impact. That sometimes you listen to a lot of, like I need to listen also to whatever I can have, from all over genres. But there is just a place where you can. I cannot find it, in other music. I find it only in drone music, and particularly with Cellar.
Were there any other records? It sounds like you said you struggled to figure out which one to pick. Which other ones were in the mix here?
There is an album called, I'm not sure exactly how it's pronounced. I think it's Japanese, but it's called Cheche
Yes,
or something like that. Yeah, I loved it so much. It has some of the really tracks that I like For the Entirety, and Our Dream to Be Strangers, and Rains Lit by Neon. But I now, because like I really can't. Since also need to listen to different music, so whenever I put I want to listen to Cellar now, I just always put it on shuffle, and I don't remember the names, but because since he has a huge discography, I just want to listen to. I don't want to get comfortable with certain tracks. I want to listen to everything that they have done.
I'm intrigued. When you heard Cellar, did it bring you into discovering any other artists? Like once you had this feeling with
Yeah,
Cellar.
absolutely. Sarah Davashi, I think. I remember listening to her, but I think 1 or 2 years after. And to be honest, I did not like always the type of music that I like. I don't get it from the first time, honestly, because it always would be like out of the box. But I listened to Sarah's work, and I wasn't sure what it was, but it was very intriguing. But I wasn't like in the mood, and or like it demands attention.
Yeah.
It demands that you are connected, on a certain level, or just don't listen to it. But I remember listening to just understanding how the music changes, like those little things, these melodies, not melodies, but actually, chords changing with time. The changes that she introduces, when I just like understood what she is doing, I thought, wow, that's blasphemy. That's something completely different. How can you be that free and like really having a lot of attention to the instrument that you are making? Be so brave and be, there's just a track, Border of the Mind and Magdalena. I mean, I love them so much. I always listen to them. Lost Mode, but actually Lost Mode, I listened to it before Cellar, and I also loved his late wife Daniela Bacquet work. Also, she did the separate work as well, and I really loved her work.
Yes, Chubby Wolf. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, stuff was amazing.
Mm.
Yeah, so if you think back to listening to Discourse of the Withered, is there a particular memory that comes into your head of a specific place that you were listening, or any memories that protrude particularly?
Yeah, you would laugh actually, but the cover art, if you have looked
Yes.
at it, it's a place where there's a lake and there's a road, and like the side of the road, and like there's a like mountain way back there. It really looked the like the same place where I was staying up north. It was really the same way, because we it was
Wow.
a small village, and like just the street outside was E420. There was nothing there, and there was a huge lake there and a dam. And I always, whenever I look to that picture, I remember it. But I don't know why again, like especially that track, the carved card is gone. It really reminded me, because like of Hafiz al-Assad, the president, the first dictator, because he did a lot of statues for himself around Syria, and people hated them a lot. And when the revolution started, people really were terrified of, like, even photographing next to them.
Right.
No one wanted that. It was that type of fear. So when they took down these statues, it was just a very liberating moment. And whenever I read that title and I listen again to the demonstration, always bring back the images, the videos I saw in Syria. Again, very emotional album for me.
Obay, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for firstly talking through your record. Having loved it for so long, it's been such a treat to...
Thank you so much. Actually, I really loved it, because I really remembered a lot of important things today. I really love that I went through those the records again.
So glad. Yeah, I've had a
Yeah.
great time with them too. And to everyone listening, see you next time. Goodbye.